Hello and welcome to another episode of Inside Nilds. I'm Okiria Agbonsuremi. The Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Nilds, is being positioned to meet the capacity needs for legislative and democratic practices in Nigeria and across Africa. The Director General of the Institute, Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, my guest on today's program, knows exactly how to go about it. Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Good time to have you.
Oh, it's quite a while.
Yeah, I wonder how you have been able to navigate the terrain of setting standards and having the journey so far at Nilds since you came on.
Thank you very much. I think when people ask me that question, my simple response to that is that Nilds itself as an institute is a research institute.
Yeah.
I was coming from the university, an academic setting. So, I mean, presiding over a research institute like Nilds is not something new to me. I'm a teacher. We are there to train. I've been teaching for the past more than 2 decades. So it's something that is a familiar terrain that I'm used to. And secondly, it's not just a training institute or an academic institute, but more or less it falls within the balance of the public service. And being a former minister of national planning, being a director in the university before, these are things that I am fond of doing before. So it's not something new to me. So the mandate was very clear, and that is the capacity, how to enhance the capacity of Nigerian legislature, how to enhance the capacity of their support staff, how to enhance the capacity of the critical stakeholder in democracy. As a political scientist that I am, as a teacher, as an administrator, I think combining all these variables together, that gives me that enough, motivation and stimulation, to preside over the institute. And quite frankly, we have done wonderfully well in the last 1 year.
There's no doubt that at the beginning, if you cast your mind back to 99, I was also privileged to be a reporter in the National Assembly then. Most of the legislators were going out for seminars, for trainings, and try to get hands-on skills, concepts of democracy and how they are going to perform. In what ways have you seen this institute fill that gap to be able to contribute to improving the legislative capacity of our lawmakers?
The only organ of government in Nigeria that has suffered a serious setback on account of military intervention in Nigerian politics is the legislature. Unlike the judiciary, unlike the executive, that you can say have stayed for more than 60 years or 60 years in Nigerian evolution. The legislature, anytime the military come into power, is the only institution that we try to decimate in one way or the other. And because of that, therefore, the requisite experience, the requisite skill, the requisite knowledge expected of them over the years is not there. So, 1999, when the democracy came back, the politicians at that time, especially people that took over government at that time, thought, look, we need to develop the skill of the legislature. There has been that vacuum, there has been that gap, knowledge gap. And to do that, therefore, we need to put in place an institutions that will enhance the capacity. Politicians comes and go. There was that institution that at least will be there, that will sustain the memory, that will be there to really, impart the knowledge, put them through. A carpenter can be appointed a senator. A bricklayer can be appointed a senator. Yes. Is one organ of government that requires specialized skill. You can be a professor. When it comes to parliamentary process, legislative process, you need specialized skill. So, like what obtains in other climates, other advanced democracy, you need such, a capacity building institution to be in place. And over the years, I think, coming back to your question, the institute, which was put in place in 2012 has been able to bridge that gap. People still travel to UK, to US for advanced training on legislative process, parliamentary process, democracy, party politics. We're still doing that in Nigeria. But in terms of getting the support staff through in their certain skills, getting the legislature through, the service commissioners in the various state level, because we're not just talking about federal level this time around.
Yeah.
We are talking about subnational legislature, the states, the local governments. I think we have been able to reduce, and that is why when you talk about incessant, what you call, free flow of legislative, conduct processes, less of frictions, less of acrimony, or we are trying to even deter the military from coming to. The achievement recorded in the last 20 years is not complete without the institute.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have been able to put them through in their conduct, in their ways of doing things, in the way of resolving issues, parliamentary matters. I think so. The institute has done so much, in this.
Are there gaps you are still seeing? I agree that we still need to do peer review with other institutes abroad. Our legislators still need to interact with their counterparts about to be able to be up to date with trends. Now, are there gaps that you have noticed since you came on board to see, look, in the next phase, in our development plan, we need not to have our legislators go out, they should be able to get this locally? I
wouldn't want to align with that position. Even the executive, even the civil servant, they do go out for one thing or the other.
Yes.
This is a globalized environment. There are gaps, of course, because like now we're looking at some fundamental issue that has been creeping into our democratic experience, looking at legislative and executive leadership. There have been so many acrimony in the last few months ago under the dispensation.
Yes.
We're looking at that. How do legislature perform their oversight functions? Independent of interference from the executive. How do the two organs of government work, harmoniously without overeating the polity?
Mm-hmm.
Then thirdly, it's not about just the legislature coming into, being elected, being, sworn in and induction organized for them. We are trying to put in place a kind of refresher programs, courses, that for every legislature that comes in, you must undertake this program for 2-3 months. They have just been sold to the Speaker of House of Representatives about a month ago, for them to put it into their,
their own templates.
As you are coming in as legislature, you must go into Nilds to undertake this program, because we still observe that when the induction is being organized for them, some, either because they are facing one litigation or the other, they could not attend the inductions. Some, out of their own sheer, decision, will not be partaking in that induction. And we observe in the course of debates at the chamber.
You want this to be entrenched.
It must be
entrenched, so that becomes compulsory.
It must be entrenched. Yeah. You must have that. You must be certified to have undergone that training.
Can this happen just before the swearing, before the inauguration? Because there's always a time gap after election, 3 months, 2 months, as the case may be, that you have legislators who have been, just so that before they come in, Nilds can quickly begin to fill in this gap. Is it possible to?
It's possible, because we have sent the proposal to the Speaker, and we want to do the same for the Senate President. The Speaker, because of the numbers of the legislature, we are working on that. I believe, depending on the duration for the program.
Yes.
If the duration is 2-3 weeks, for instance, intensive course for them, it's something doable before the swearing.
Before the swearing.
So we're working on that. It's working.
And now the other question I want to ask you, just before I go to the next question, is our impact in the West African sub-region, because I have also seen the mandate that is just also ambitious to get the influence of developing democracy in West Africa. If you look at Mali recently, If you look at Ghana, if you look at the West Africa has become like a kind of shame to other parts of Africa in the developments of their democracy. Now, how much impact do we hope to, with time, be able to build in West Africa? Because one country having a problem becomes a problem to everybody.
Yeah, one country having a problem will snowball into other countries. And Nigeria being the largest African, country in Africa, we have a role to play. And we are looking at the needs, our mandates in needs, within the content of Nigerian Afrocentric policy.
Yes.
It's not just for us to serve parliamentarians in Nigeria or critical stakeholders in Nigeria. We must carry West African Democrats along with us. We must carry West African Parliament along with us. And that is why in the last 1 year, for instance, we have received a lot of invitations, or do I say, we have hosted a lot of parliamentarians
from across,
from Gambia, from Sierra Leone, from Uganda. We are trying to penetrate, because either we like it or not, should there be any crisis in Mali tomorrow,
it snowballs here.
Not only snowballing, Nigeria will play active role as we are doing now.
Yeah.
The envoy to Malian crisis now is the former president of the country.
Yes.
Our president has been very key in resolving the crisis.
With the changing world and the new ways of doing things evolving around everywhere due to the COVID-19 pandemics, how do you plan to adapt the Institute's mandate to suit global dynamics?
Just in line with the last question I asked, I answered. The Institute has come up with a lot of initiatives. I think one key thing that we must not lose sight of is the import of technology.
Yes.
That's very key. Before now, we try to trivialize ICT as one key variable that we can adopt or employ in carrying out our day-to-day activities. Globalization is not just about free flow of people or movements. It's about free flow of ideas.
Yes.
It's about free flow of, communication without physical interface. One critical aspect of our mandate was the facilitations of international training. For instance, we are collaborating with so many institutions abroad, the Harvard, the John Hopkins, the Oxford. Before COVID, we had a lot of programs highlighted for our legislature. But all of a sudden, we have to suspend most of these things. I should let you know that, in line with your question, how do we acclimatize?
Yes.
How do we achieve our mandate? In this kind of situation we find ourselves. Already we are talking with some of these institutions in ensuring that the mandate of NILDS, which is about enhancing the capacity of the parliamentarians, of the support staff, of critical stakeholders, is actualized. But one key component, one key variable there is through the instrumentality of communications.
That's all right. We'll just take a short break now and we'll be back shortly. And welcome back to the program. I'm still with the DG of Nilds, Professor Abubakar Sulaiman. Thank you for remaining with us and for the incisive answers you are giving to these the issues we are raising. Let's take it. In your inaugural speech, you talked about the establishment of Democracy Radio. And sounds good, maybe because I'm a radio person. Sounds good. Now, how do you plan to adapt it? How do you plan to to carry this out? How much have you paid work have you done to get into this?
You see, that question interests me because you are the anchor person here now. We are together. You know, for years, when people mention your name, it has to do with democracy.
Yes.
It has to do with political development.
Yes.
It has to do with happiness. That's what you are known for.
Yes.
And the question
That's
we're
I'm also excited.
the question we're asking: must people tell our story for us? Must we allow people to tell our story? We should tell our story.
By yourself.
And I keep on saying one thing: people will know me for that by the time I leave as the DG of this institute. That government or democracy is not just for the executive. It's a collective, contract between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. But over the years, the story of how a government is being run is being told by only the executive. The various organ, the various propaganda
Tools and the
tools being
institutions
used
are executive.
and those, yes, nothing for the in this country. Look at it. Nigerian legislature does not have their own media that you can say, yes, this belongs to. So when people have this misperception about the legislature as being the only thieves we have in the country, oh, they are stealing our money, they are stealing. Somebody must tell their own story for them. They must narrate their own. The narration must change. And that's why we say, look, it is high time for the legislature, especially the National Assembly, to have their own voice to speak for them. That's number one. Number two, we shouldn't wait till election comes before we start employing the services of AIT, NTA to say, oh, go and collect your card, your PVC, this is your civil. We shouldn't wait till that time. There must be one, media outfit
that is saddled with responsibility of mobilizing the
so
citizens.
Our democracy radio is a media outfit that is out to serve legislature and the Nigerian Democrats, the stakeholders in democracy. What are those responsibilities of the various electorates in the election? By now, INEC should have gotten one media outfit to do that. Because election itself or democracy is a continuous process. The lacuna has been identified. That vacuum has been there. We are trying to bring that vacuum.
You don't think that it is possible for the legislature to use existing both public and private radio stations to achieve this particular purpose?
Even when government executive have NTA and Radio Nigeria, they still employ the rest of other media houses to do certain things.
Yes.
That's what they stop them. Coming back to your question, by now we came with the idea of democracy radio last year. The leadership of both houses, the National Assembly, the Governing Council, under the leadership of Senate President Hamad Lawal and the Speaker Bajabiya Mila Femi, they approve of this democracy radio. You should know better than I do that putting a radio station or a media outfit in place is not just by
instruction. It's not by on the shelf.
Aha! There are a lot of processes that are going.
Yes.
So as I'm talking to you now, the licensing, process is on. After the license, then other thing follows as well.
Yeah, because in advanced democracies in the US, you see C-SPAN, you see specialized parliamentary channels, so you are not out of place. But let's talk about one area of the mandate of the institute that will definitely not just deepen practical knowledge of our democracy, but also serve as a memory over a period of time. Election monitoring. Many people don't understand that it is not just to see that there's no fight, there's no gunshot, or that there are a lot of things that go into election monitoring. And I know that as the institute, you have also done a lot, and you are doing a lot in the election observation. Tell me about this.
Thank you very much. Election monitoring or election observation is one key component of international relations. The legitimacy of any government is not just being determined by the people that vote for you, but to a large extent by the monitors, both within and outside.
Yes.
They are the ones to now say, yes, the election process is okay, that be very transparent, that be fair, and and even international politics in terms of how states, relate to one another, how they perceive the government from another government, could be judged by the outcome of the results.
Because it's like a big brother role.
So, if that is the main thing now across the globe, to assess the legitimacy otherwise of any government, I think the issue of election monitoring and observation is a key component of any NGOs or any governmental organization. And that is why Nilds, as part of our mandate, before it was legislative, but now we talk of building democracy.
Yes.
Deepen democratic ethics. If you are to deepen democratic ethics, therefore, it's part of our duty to play some active role in party affairs, election-related issues. How do we ensure that even political parties respect the rules of their game within the setting? How do we deepen internal democracy? Beyond that, after primaries, what obtains the election process? How does it go like? We shouldn't allow people to come outside to say, yes, this is how Nigeria runs their democracy. We within too
should be able to.
Should be, passionate enough to say, look, we have seen it, we have observed it, and we believe this is, on a good slide. So, what we have done in the last 5 years is to see election monitoring as part of our routine. The Institute monitor and observe the 2019 election. The report submitted to INEC.
Yeah.
We address the press about that, what we believe went wrong, what we believe were okay, and we adjudge the election has been, fairly okay. We were part of the elections in Bayelsa. We were part of the election in Kogi. We observe and monitor the internal, democracy in Edo and that of Ondo. Well, the point I'm making is that we have been very, very active in ensuring that at least the parties at play, the various political, especially the two major parties in Nigeria, live by the rules of the game.
Now, how much of strength do you have to do this monitoring? Do you do it by recruiting observers or train them what to do, and then are you planning of taking this exercise outside of Nigeria?
Yes, the institute, as I said, is not just here to serve Nigerian, Democrat or Nigerian stakeholders. We want to go beyond the country, but before we do that, we have to do what is the pilot scheme.
Yeah, charity beginning at home.
So it's a gradual process. But one key thing that I believe is very important here is that we have enough staff, trained staff, and even for INEC that coordinates election in the country, they do employ the services of ad hoc staff.
Yes.
So when we go to some of these states with our key staff on ground, we employ the services of ad hoc staff to assist us, monitor. But we have our own standards, we have our own rules, we have our own guiding principle that guide most of these ad hoc staff. So if we're able to successfully monitor election in 2023, for instance, is part of our vision that we can now extend our monitoring, mandate to West African countries. It's part of our vision.
Well, I must appreciate you. delve into the life of needs and the challenges and then the prospect. And I want to say that the prospects are actually more in the colors, bright colors than what we are. So I want to appreciate you
Thank
for
you very much.
joining us on this program.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you, and
It's a pleasure
next
seeing you
time
again.
we should have to see you again on
Thank
the
you.
program. Thank you. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Inside Needs. Join us next week for another interesting edition. I'm Okiri Agbonsule. Stay safe.